Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Joyful Money podcast. I am super thrilled because I have an amazing guest for you today. My guest is Dr. Nona Javid. Welcome to the show, Dr. Nona.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Why don't you start by introducing yourself and telling us what you do?
Man, I there's so much I can tell you about myself. I write for Forbes. I am an immigrant. I'm a mom of two little boys and a stepmom or a bonus mom to a little girl. I live between Southern California and Italy. I've written a book and working on my second one. But and there's so much English is my second language, so my accent might come along with me today at some point. It will pop out. But I think what's important about the work that I do, so much more than my accomplishments, actually stories of struggle and the things that I have gone through that have sort of brought me to this point here with you on this podcast.
I love that so much. I'm an immigrant, which is why before we hit the record button, I told you I'm so keen about that part of your story. And English is my second language too. So welcome to a very welcoming community of very beautiful accents, and we celebrate accents here. So tell us about your story. What brought you here? Give us an insight into your personal journey and your story.
Yeah. So my story begins not to kind of make it a bit of a shorter journey for you or give you a summary of it. I moved to the United States when I was 16 years old. And when I moved here, and even before then, I was this go-getter kid who was like going for the A plus and wanted to prove myself, right and get all this validation from my parents and my teachers that I was the A plus student. I was really good at math and at sciences, and I would study really hard and I worked really hard at everything. And I sort of had this idea of success and what success meant. And I think we can all relate to that. Whether you were the A plus student or the C plus student, it doesn't matter. I think to some degree in life, we think, okay, well, I got to get a good job. I got to get good grades. I got to climb the corporate ladder. I got to start a business. I got to get married. I got to have children. I got to do. So the matrix or the consciousness of the world tells you these are the things you've got to do in order for you to be successful. That's what's going to make you happy and that's what's going to fulfill you. And so I found myself doing all of those things. I found myself, I went to Berkeley. I got a neurology degree from Berkeley. I got my doctorate degree. I did some postdoctorate studies in neurology. I started a business. I got married. I had children. So I checked off all of these boxes, and I remember finding myself in this life that I had built completely empty and
Mm.
completely unfulfilled. And I remember having this moment where I realized I didn't just hit some kind of a glass ceiling. I had literally built this glass or brick, really business and life just around myself. I was isolated. My marriage wasn't working. My business was thriving. I actually had a seven-figure business. This was in my early 20s, but I built it in such a way that I had become a slave to my business. There was zero chance I could walk away from that business or go on a long vacation or be present with my children. Even if I worked part-time and had people working for me, my mind was constantly on the stresses and the overwhelm of life. And I just couldn't get a break. And I remember thinking to myself, this could be the end,
Mm.
or perhaps this could be the beginning of something. This was going to be the beginning of something. I would absolutely 1,000% have to do things differently than what I had done in the past. What I'd done in the past was approaching everything from a place of scarcity, from a place of not enoughness, from a place of needing validation, or from a place of hustle,
Mm.
push and work hard and make the thing happen. And if we're being honest, it's not my fault. And it's anybody listening to this, if that's kind of your, I think it's a lot of entrepreneurs, it's a lot of business owners, a lot of high achievers. It's not really our fault. It's the conditioning that we have experienced with our parents and generationally, and even in our community. The consciousness of the world is you work hard and then you are worthy. Then you are worthy.
Mm.
So during that period of time, I completely burnt out, but I did make a decision to commit to something different. And I did have a vision at the time, and it wasn't a vision that I experienced for the first time then, but it was a vision that had been there since I was a little girl. Just like a lot of us here, and if you're listening to this, there's probably a part of you that wants something bigger. You want something more out of life. And for me, one of the first things I wanted to do was to move my business into a part-time model. So wanted to have, what I called at the time a part-time seven-figure business. So, and I wanted to travel the world. I wanted to have the freedom to be able to be present with my kids. I wanted to fall in love. I wanted to have a thriving family where I could world school them. I wanted to live bicontinentally, and I wanted more than anything else to create some impact in the world. Impact that was really meaningful. And that vision back then felt completely unreachable.
Mm.
It felt completely impossible. But I did make a decision to commit to that vision no matter what. So if I woke up and if I had a really sad day or if I was in a bad mood, I was committed to the vision. If I had a great day, I was committed to the vision. So I continued to say yes to the vision over and over, no matter what my energy was and no matter what my circumstances were. And that became the foundation of everything that I unfolded after that. Within the first year, I moved my business and created a part-time seven-figure business. 3 years after that, I built three other businesses. Now, we were at that time, we were at multiple seven figures, working part-time and creating, and these are brick and mortar businesses. So some people listening oftentimes will reach out to me and be like, oh, that must have been a virtual, some kind of freedom-based. No, the first four businesses I started, they were brick and mortar. And then I moved into some of the other, sort of businesses and investments. So part of creating all of that freedom and the foundation of creating the freedom of time, money, energy, and abundance of impact that you get to do as a result of that you get to create had to do with the foundation of having an unreasonable vision for life, an unreasonable vision for the amount of impact, an unreasonable vision for my business, for my family. It all started there, and it started with me saying yes to that vision every single day.
Wow, I love that so much. So then for your brick and mortar business, is this your chiropractic business?
The very first one was a chiropractic business, and then I opened up three other businesses that were within the same theme, but they were weight loss businesses at the time. And then I took the weight loss businesses virtual later on in life.
Yeah, I love that so much. So then what would you say was the turning point for you? Like, can you go back and pinpoint something that sparked the drive for creating another vision in your mind? Like, what was that turning point for you?
I wish I could be like, this is how you do it, or this is what happened. But truthfully, I was tired.
Mm.
I had worked so hard and I was just overgiving in every aspect of my life, in my personal life, in my marriage, in my relationship with my friends, with my family members, in my business. There was so much overgive that was happening at the time that I think, while the decision seemed like an overnight decision, like, okay, I burnt out, I made an overnight decision to do, it really wasn't an overnight decision. It just was such a built up to get me to that point. And I was tired, just
Mm.
tired. I knew that what I had done in the past wasn't gonna bring me something different. If I wanted, this is something my students quote me on this all the time, and I say, you want something that is wildly different, and you're gonna have to do things that are wildly different. You're gonna have to make different decisions.
Yeah. like the reason I asked the question is because I know so many people are in that space, right? And many of them feel like they're stuck. They feel like um, making a change will be very difficult, especially if it involved them almost changing ideas on the kind of work they do right now. So let's say someone is in a 9 to 5 that they absolutely dread, but because of the steady paycheck, they're like, I don't think I can do something I love that will pay me as much money as I get from my 9 to 5. And that was why I asked that question. And you had the audacity to think that a different life was possible for you. Like you just had the courage to
Yes,
say,
and and I can't say I believed it at the time.
"Mm,
I can't. So while I committed to it, I wasn't like, oh yeah, let's go. Like we can do this and here's the pathway. I had no freaking idea how to get to the dream. And the dream at the time was part-time businesses, freedom of time, living bicontinentally, falling in love, having a bigger impact. From where I was sitting, trapped in a marriage that wasn't working, trapped in a business I was a slave to, it was absolutely impossible. That's why I call it an unreasonable vision. And you're right. If someone's listening to this, and me too at the time, and even now, there's this comfort level that we have with safety, right? It's safe to be a 9 to 5 job. It's safe to be in this business. Even now, there are things that in my life right now, as amazing and incredible as it is, I'm playing small. I'm playing safe,
mm,
right? Why? Because my nervous system actually feels safe in the familiar, right? What's familiar is a 9 to 5 job that pays the checks, right? Because that's safe. What's familiar might actually be a toxic relationship at times. What's familiar is something that's not working. What's familiar is stressed out and overwhelmed. And those
mm,
are the patterns, emotional patterns that we are addicted to that we're familiar with. And so, and this kind of goes into the framework that I teach that goes, you don't have to have all of it figured out. All you have to
mm,
figure out is what's the vision that seems totally impossible. And, again, I call it the unreasonable vision. That's everything that I teach. But what's that vision? Figure what that is first. So if you're in a 9 to 5, stay in your 9 to 5, but have an unreasonable vision where you wake up and you drink your coffee and you drive to that 9 to 5 job and you're like, but that's my vision. So you get clear on the vision and not to overwhelm people. So then I usually say, just have 3 bullet points, 3 things you want to experience in life. As you keep committing to those 3 things, you're going to watch it expand. First, you're going to say, I want a next house. Then over time, as you keep saying yes to the house, one of the bullet points, then you're like, wait a second, I would like it to be in the mountains. Wait a second, I'd like to experience this in the house. Wait a second, I'd like to listen to my kids laugh, run around and laugh, in the house. So you start to give it juice and you start to expand it. But the most important part is to begin to have something in place that you could say yes to ongoing process. Over time, that becomes safe. That becomes familiar because you've given it to your mind so many times that now your brain goes, oh, I thought this was the only safe thing. The 9 to 5 is the only safe thing. But now that you've given this to me in my mind's eye over and over and over again, my body, and this is real, we know this, feels like that's already happened. So then my nervous system goes, oh, that's safe. And then all of a sudden, you get a job promotion, or all of a sudden you start applying. You're like, let me see what else is around. And all of a sudden, all because your nervous system is now at a place where it feels safe taking a step to that next level.
So it's almost like we're rewiring our nervous system because our nervous system, I call it like the subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, I love that so much. So then it's almost like you're visualizing the future and you're installing that future in your mind's eye, but then making it safe for your nervous system. So, give us practical steps. How can we do what you just said? How can we make it that our nervous system starts to see our desired reality as the safe place to be, especially like you said, for many of us, for many, many years, we have conditioned our body, our nervous system to be accustomed to where we are at right now. So, how do we rewire that nervous system to make it safe to live a good life, to be fulfilled, to make $1 million per month, if that's what we want? How can we rewire our nervous system to get to that place?
Mhm. I wish I had a magic pill for this one. I would probably be a billionaire. But it's going to come down to sitting down and figuring out what the vision is first. Okay.
Mm.
So for some people listening, they're like, I already got it. I have 3 pages, or I can bust out my journal and I have it in there, or I have it in a document somewhere. For some people will go, I don't know what I want. And some people will
Mm.
go, I have 3 things that I want. I want this, I want a, 7-figure business, I want a whatever vacation home, and I want to have write a book, right? So they have like 3 bullet points. So if you're in the category where it says, I don't know what I want, I want you to
Mm.
challenge uh, that concept, because I wonder if you did know what you wanted, you'd have to get uncomfortable. And so your nervous system goes, I don't know what I want. So you identify with, I don't know what I want, so that you can stay safe. So that's kind of like, all right, first we got to get that out of the way and move along. So if you're in the second category, you've got 3 bullet points. Fine, start there. Commit to that, but commit to it every moment. Commit to it when you're answering your emails. Commit to it before you get on a Zoom call. So I'm on this Zoom call, but before I get on this Zoom, not this particular Zoom call, I'm talking to someone who's like having a Zoom call with their employees or with their team members or something like that. Before you get on there, who's the version of you that's showing up? Are you showing up in the limited identity of right now, or are you showing up in the version of you that is in that next level life? And so my 4-level framework actually walks people through this, but not until they have a vision. And if you are the third category where you're like, I have it, I have a vision board, and I have this, just commit to it. And practical perspective, I can tell you, the usual stuff. Wake up every day and read it and feel it. Feel as if
Mm.
it's already here, right? So that becomes more the practical steps of it. But overall, if you zoom out, it's like, how committed are you to that vision versus how committed are you to the emotional addictions of stress and not enough and not worthy and not loved and scarcity and all of that? Like, which one are you committed to more and most of the time? If it's this one, you're going to get that one. If it's this other one, this unreasonable life, and you're putting more of your energy and focus and thoughts into that, you're going to walk yourself into that life.
Yes. And I remember saying, says, fight for your limitations and you get to keep them. So I love that so much. I also love what you said about our brains offering, I don't know, as the answer. My coach, Brooke Castillo, when we were in the life coach school, she would coach us as a group. And before the Zoom meeting started, she would say, the only answer that is off the table is I don't know. You cannot answer me, I don't know, because that's where our brains go to by default. I don't know, because our brains do not want to think. So thank you
And
so much. I believe like people listening can so relate to what you said. And I think this is going to be very helpful for people who are either stuck, can make a change, and they desire a change. So I love that you gave us your framework there. So I want to ask you about your journey from immigrant to millionaire. But before I get there, there's something you teach. You teach entrepreneurs how to break free from the hustle to create a business that they love, a business that gives them time freedom, money freedom, and all of those things. And before we hit the record button, I was like, I know many business owners would like to know how to drop the hustle. So can you teach us how to do that?
absolutely. So, my theme, it seems like my soul has come into this world to figure this one thing out. All right.
Mm.
Because it's a theme in everything that I have done. And this is actually something I've recognized now, like more in the recent years. I didn't know it at the time. But my theme has always been, how can I collapse time? How can I collapse time? So when I was in my first business in my 20s, I built a seven-figure practice and business, and I was working a lot. And even when I was not working a lot, I was still consumed by the business. When I had the vision and when I moved my business into a part-time seven-figure business, the premise there was, how can I do things so efficiently that it takes the hustle out and it creates more freedom of time. And I collapse time in such a way that something that, for example, would take X amount of time, now it takes half the amount of time. So again, the concept of collapsing time. I hope that that part is clear to your audience. Then I went on, I created other businesses, lived life, got divorced, remarried, like all this other stuff. And so then a few years ago, then I had this vision that came to me, literally was channeled in, that was like, okay, now it's time to live a 1 week a month lifestyle. Okay. When I first heard and saw and felt that vision, I actually went into a complete panic attack because my sense of as a human being, it wasn't like, oh, okay, great, I'm going to pursue a 1 week a month lifestyle where I only work 1 week and I get to do whatever I want in those 3 weeks. My limitations came back up because it was like, what are you going to do for 3 weeks of freedom? And then it was like, that sounds lazy. Then it was like, well, then you're not going to be worthy. Well, then everything is going to fall apart if you don't work 3 weeks out of the month. So all these other limitations came back up. And then it was like, oh, this is my lesson. This is what I'm supposed to learn. And this is what I'm supposed to share. Because if I can get myself to live a 1 week a month lifestyle, it would mean that I have to sit comfortably and feel safe in freedom of time, of finances, of energy. I need to feel safe and expand my container of joy, because I could now travel with my kids and be present with my kids and not get anxious after 2 weeks of being gone, or have to go back or bring my phone or bring my laptop and things like that, right? So people ask me, what was the most challenging part about moving into this sort of starting this anti-hustle culture and moving into the space of 1 week a month lifestyle? It wasn't implementing the systems in my business. It wasn't hiring the team. It wasn't, shifting things in my business so I can do that. It wasn't those things. It was actually getting my nervous system to feel safe in that level of freedom and spaciousness. And that took, sitting in the spaciousness. It took getting my nervous system to feel comfortable by repetition and by creating a vision for the 1 week a month lifestyle. So the same process worked here. Somebody, who, I think a lot of people relate to this, like you said, of the hustle. I got to work hard and I got to do the thing. I got to wake up at 4 o'clock and do the, nowadays there's so many biohacks that you're doing too, between 4 and 8 o'clock before breakfast. But, there's that. And then there's this idea of, what if there's a level of addiction to doing, to hustle, so that you can be worthy of the profitability, so you can be worthy of the vacation, so that you can be worthy of spending time with your family, worthy of going to volunteer at lunchtime without coming back. So if I can unhook from that pattern, then I can create new patterns that are going to allow me to experience more freedom.
Yes. Wow, I love that so, so much. Okay, so tell us about your journey from immigrant to millionaire. How did that happen?
Okay. So when I first moved to the US at 16, I didn't speak a word of language. I don't know if you spoke any English when you moved here.
No, I didn't.
How,
I moved at age 25.
when did you move?
I was 25.
25, and you didn't speak a word of English. That's harder, I feel.
No, yeah. I moved to
Yeah.
the UK at the time, not the US.
Okay. So, at 16. I didn't really hello, goodbye. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
And I think for a couple of months, I didn't even speak English. I was just listening and just observing a dictionary. Like I was such a misfit. I did not fit in. I did not, I moved into middle of California and it was a completely Caucasian neighborhood. I was probably the only brown kid. Maybe we had two other brown kids in our school. So not only didn't fit in, didn't have any friends, I was, pulled away from all of my friendships in teenage years, crucial years. And here I am, I don't even speak the language. But I do think to some degree it helped me because it put me in a sink or swim environment where I had to learn. I had to survive. There was no other option. Nobody spoke my language. I had to be understood and I had to move forward in life. So one thing was I was good at math at the time. So I started to, math had a different, once I got going with my English, math had easier language because it's like 1 plus 2, whatever the case. So I started to teach the neighborhood kids math and I started to tutor. So
Mm.
I got so good at tutoring that later I was like, and here's another part where it shows you the theme about collapsing time. Later, I realized this is me at 17. I realized I was like, I only have limited amount of time. I can't, I'm getting
Mm.
so many referrals and so many kids that wanted to be tutored. I was like, I'm going to ask some of my classmates to tutor these kids and I'm going to delegate it to them and leverage. So I would be like, I have the perfect tutor for you. I'm going to send you Joy, and Joy is going to tutor your kid in math. And then I would tell Joy, I'd be like, you're going to get $50 or whatever it was at the time, $20, and you're going to give me half of it because I'm sending it. So I started to sort of leverage people that were good at math, and I had this underground business, tutoring business that I started at the time. And then later, actually, even in college, I continued to have a tutoring business where I would hire other people, other students, and I would take a cut of the work that they were doing. So that concept of leverage, of delegation, of collapsing time and being able to sort of be efficient in the time that you're there, that was really, has always been there. I can't tell you where it's come from, but that's kind of where it's been.
Yeah,
That was the
that's
beginning.
really, really, yeah, that's really, really smart. Like that's an essential business skill to have. And it's so interesting that you had that skill from the age of 25. How do you think your success has impacted your community?
Mhm. Um, when I first, thank you for asking that question. Such a beautiful question. When I think back to when I was a chiropractor,
Mm,
I have always wanted to help people. So it was
mm,
my way of becoming a chiropractor was my way of helping people in my community. And there was always people would come in and I would help them or my team would help them. And I would always see, this is amazing. It's incredible. I'm helping all these people. And then I realized there was a cap to how much I could make a
yeah.
shift in my community. Then I thought at the time with my limitations, I thought, oh, maybe the solution is multiple other businesses. I can help people lose weight, be happier, and live healthier lives. So, here we are, four businesses, or back then, four businesses later. I sold all of those businesses way back ago, but four other businesses, and I still felt like I didn't have enough impact in my
Mm,
community and in the world. And then over time, the definition of contribution has shifted for me quite a bit. Now I feel I'm at a point where it goes the more authentic I get to live my life, and the more I get to tune into the things that um, have had the blessing of experiencing, right?
mm,
The more I can say yes to the visions that are popping up, like the 1 week a month lifestyle, right? If I can learn how to do this, and then if I can teach others how to do this, the ripple effect of that impact is just so much more massive than what I could have done in the past. So it's really become a, a journey of coming more to myself. And interestingly enough, and this is kind of hard to put into words, but interestingly enough, that journey has had a much bigger impact in the world as much as I can. Obviously, I'd love to change the world. I'd love to make a dent in the universe in with the work that I do. But I can see the more I focus on my mission and my vision for life, the more impact I get to have because instead of trying to push people to be inspired to take action, then I can be the source of inspiration and magnetize more and more people that are looking for similar things. They want more impact, they want more freedom, they want to spend more time with their family.
Wow, that's such a lovely way to have more impact. So tell us about your work as a business and quantum leap mentor.
Mm. Yeah, I do. I started out initially as doing more business consulting, so helping entrepreneurs and business owners put in systems in place and communications and sales and marketing and all of that to be able to take their businesses from wherever it was to maybe their first seven figures or multiple seven figures. And at this point, maybe multiply or scale their businesses. And now, even as a business consultant, I have a different approach where I teach both the energetics, right? A lot of focus on the vision, on the identity of who you need to become as a CEO, as well as the mechanics. So the sales, the systems, the processes that you need to put into place. So I focus on those two things as a business consultant. And then, of course, I have a membership where I teach people how to live their unreasonable life. And then I have a mastermind for entrepreneurs and business owners that want to experience more freedom. And it's called 1 week a month mastermind. This is more for established business owners that want to kind of take their business to the next level, create more freedom. And then my membership to my students is really just teaching them on a weekly basis how to tune into that unreasonable lifestyle and how to become the version of themselves that allows them to have that life. And I put on retreats a couple times a year, 3 to 4 times a year usually, where we get together as a community and get to experience things that will quantum leap us to that next level.
Amazing. So then, if someone is listening right now, they want to find out how they can work with you, where would you ask them to start?
I would love a personal connect. I always love a personal connect, and I try to do it as much as possible. If I listen to a podcast or something and I love what they're saying, I will immediately find them on Instagram, send them a message, say, this really resonated with me. So if this conversation resonated with you, you can reach out to me on Instagram and say, here's where I heard this conversation. And for doing that, I would love to give whoever's doing that a gift. And so I have a 90-minute training where I walk people from an unreasonable vision. There's like 3 other steps. There's 4-step process, and I walk people through the entire framework. And I have a shorter version of it too, but this one is like a paid training, and I'm happy to send it to anyone that is willing to sit down for 90 minutes and workshop the heck out of their dream life and move in that direction. They just have to kind of mention your name and say, this was a cool conversation. I'd like that.
Fantastic. So, ladies, I'm gonna have Nona's contact details in the show notes so you can go reach out to her on Instagram. I've actually taken a look at your Instagram page. You are doing like amazing work. I love the way you do your post, and it's just really, really nice. So are you saying the best way for people to reach you is via Instagram?
I would say so. Yeah. I mean, I'm available everywhere else. I'm pretty accessible. Facebook, send me an email, go to the website. But I think, again, I love a personal connect. So if you are on Instagram, just send me a message on there.
Fantastic. Wow, this has been an amazing conversation. I'm just looking at the time on my other computer. I'm like, where did the time go? It's just flown by so fast. Thank you so much. But before I let you go, Dr. Nana, I'm gonna let you just speak to my audience. Like, someone is listening right now, they're feeling stuck in their lives, in their career. You've done the thing, like you've been able to follow your vision and create this amazing life for yourself. And I know you've given us some insights into how you've done that. But I want you to speak to people listening right now. How can they start to like make that step to creating a vision for their lives, to change their lives, to become more fulfilled, to have more spaciousness, like you said, to have a thriving business. Most of the people listening to this podcast have businesses. So I want to let you just free flow, share it from your heart, and tell us.
All right. What I want to share is something you already pointed to, which is which one are you feeding? Are you feeding your fears? Or are you feeding your dreams, right? And I think that that's an important conversation to have. Most people think a spiritual practice or a visualization or a manifestation has to do with you sit down and you dream about the future and then it's going to happen. That's not a spiritual practice and or a motivation routine. What is a spiritual practice of becoming the next version of you is how you show up to drink your coffee. Is if you're rushed, you're not present, if you're not enjoying every little sip, if you didn't romanticize your coffee, if you didn't feel grateful for your coffee, that's the spiritual practice. And then take that spiritual practice when you're stressed out with kids or in your business. How are you showing up to that? It's easy to be zenned out in the beginning of the day when you think about your dreams, but middle of the day, man, after lunch and you are tired and you're cranky and your business is not going the way you want it to go and your clients are not, that's the most important time to say yes to the vision and show up as the next version of you and continue committing to the future version of yourself.
Yes, I love that so, so much. And I want to say thank you, Dr. Nona, for not settling. Thank you for answering the pool and for creating an extraordinarily successful life for yourself. And I believe that in doing so, you've become an icon for many girls around the world who want to create a successful life for themselves. So thank you for the work you're doing in the world. It's been a joy having you on the podcast.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me. I appreciate that.
Hey, very quickly before you go, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you from the bottom of my heart for spending time with me today. I hope today's episode gave you something powerful to add to your business toolbox, something you can come back to anytime you need a little extra motivation in your business. If you loved today's episode, the best way you can support me and the show is to leave me a review and also to share this with an incredible businesswoman like yourself. And if you're ready to create consistent 10K months with ease and alignment, I invite you to apply to join my 6 months mastermind. Visit johnnyroland.com to book your free complimentary discovery call. I cannot wait to help you step into your next level. Until next time, stay aligned, stay confident, and keep creating joyful money. Bye for now.